So today we are going to talk about governance 101 for the Copilot agents. As many of you might know, and I can see some of the questions coming up as well, you can create Copilot agents using Copilot Studio. Here we are going to focus on the governance side of things, and we will try to touch upon at a very high level the key aspects of what governance is about. But the next demo I see is about how you create those agents as maker in Copilot Studio, right? So I think this is a great topic to have two demos on related topics. So let's get started. So Copilot Studio, why is my slide not transitioning? Okay, so Copilot Studio is where you create those Copilot agents. It started as, what used to be called as Power Virtual Agents, but it's a much more evolved version of Power Virtual Agents. So you can use it to create AI assistants or AI chatbots or AI agents. And because it is part of the Power Platform, most of the governance for Copilot agents is done using Power Platform Admin Center. And what we'll do is we'll walk through the Power Platform Admin Center today, and we'll try to cover some demos along the way. For instance, as part of governance, some of the key questions or some of the key things that you want to do is to lay policies in place so that you can effectively allow and empower your makers to create these agents within your enterprise. At the same time, you want to make sure that you can protect your enterprise assets, and that is the key aspects of governance. So we'll see about who can create agents in Copilot Studio. Where do they create? How do they create those things? What kind of data sources can they use while creating those agents? How do you monitor? And obviously, how do you get help? There are a couple of advanced topics as well that we'll cover that we can just quickly touch upon, but we'll probably not go deep into those scenarios today. All right, so let's go ahead and look into our demo, right? So this is Copilot Studio. This is where you can create agents. For instance, if I go to agents here, you'll see that I have created one agent that I've called myself first agent, and there is a Copilot as well called Copilot for Microsoft 365. So this is the Copilot that we provide, and as part of Copilot for Microsoft 365, you can also go ahead and create agents for it, and those will show up in the context of Copilot for Microsoft 365. Otherwise, you can also create your own custom agents that you can host at various channels, right? So we'll look into that. So as a governance, as a first thing that you realize is all these agents are created in the context of a Power Platform environment. So if you look into this one, there is an environment, and this is right now I have the Contoso default as the environment, but there are also other environments where you can go and create ones, right? So Power Platform, the concept of an environment is key to Power Platform. It is a container where makers can create different things, right? So the first question is, as a governance, as an admin, is who can create and where do you create, right? As I said, this is where you go to Power Platform Admin Center. So Power Platform Admin Center is admin.powerplatform.microsoft.com, and if you go to the home page, you can see a bunch of things. Basically, you can customize this homepage, once you are used to it, and so on. But there are many things that you can explore, basically. So if you look on the left side, there are different topics: environments, environment group, advisors, security, analytics, billing, settings, Copilot, and so on and so forth, right? So what we'll do is we'll go through the key important topics in the Power Platform Admin Center today for our demo. So the first thing is the environment. So the environment is where you do your stuff, you build your stuff, and by default, when you signed up, there is a default environment. But you can also go ahead and create different environments. And when you try to create environments, you can create it for different themes. For instance, you can give it a name. So let's call it Contosos, let's say sales, right? So I want to create an environment for the sales team and so on, right? You can select a reason, you can select the type of environment, sandbox, developer, production, and so on. So let's just select developer for now, just so that it's a lot faster, but you can select the different types of environment. Then you can click next, and that's how you can create. Now, for instance, anybody can create those environments, right? So now you can have a lot of environments, and it's not unusual in an enterprise to have a lot of environments. Now, as an admin, how do you manage those environments, right? So the way you can do those, you can, once you create those environments, for instance, you can go ahead and click on those environments, and there are many things that you can customize in that environment. So the key important things would be the security roles, who can do what in that environment, right? What are the security roles? So if you look at the security roles, you'll find there are a lot of out of the box roles that you have. I don't know why it's not coming up. Let's go back. Okay, maybe this is why it is just created. Let's go back to a role that I've created. And you can see there are a lot of security roles. So because it's newly created, it's taking time to populate. But there are a lot of out of the box roles. So these roles have member users in this role can do different things in an environment. But the more important ones, the ones which you will be interested on, or the more important ones would be the system administrator. Of course, if you have the system admin, you can do pretty much anything in that environment. The system customizer and the environment maker. Yes, the maker role. So the environment maker role allows you to create things in that environment, right? And the system customizer allows you to customize the database or the dataverse, in that environment. So these are the roles required in case you want to enable someone to build something on top of those environments, right? And the others would be the others are more specialized roles, so we don't have to go through those one. Sorry. All right.
Samir, sorry to jump in. Can you zoom in a bit, one step forward, just to?
All right. Is it better?
Yep, it's definitely a bit better. Yep, that's all good.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I was adjusting the zoom, and then I realized that I just moved to a bigger screen. So yeah. All right. So in an enterprise, it's not uncommon to have like a lot of environments that gets created. And as an admin, managing those environments become very challenging, right? When you have like so many environments. So we have introduced what we call as environment groups, basically. So what you can do is, instead of managing each of those environment one by one, you can assign environments to a group, and then you manage that entire set of environments in a particular group as one, and you can assign policies. For instance, you can say what kind of connectors you can use in those environments and so on, right? And creating a group is fairly easy. You go ahead, create a group. So let's call it our environment group 1, right? And you add a description. This is group 1, right? You can save it. Once it is created, you can start adding environments to it. So whatever environments that I have, you can start adding to it, right? So you can add both these 2 environments and so on. And the only thing is, it will ask you to convert it to a managed environment. So, in order for an environment to be managed in a group, we have a type called manage, whether it is managed or not managed. So you will convert it into a managed environment, right? So this is the prompt that you get. And once you do this, it will convert that environment. It just takes a few seconds, basically. And then it will be added into that group, right? So that's been converted. You can add it to a group. And now you have an environment group which contains those two environments. If you refresh it, you'll see that, right? So that's how you do it. Now, why do we want to, add it to a group? As we said, is because you want to group different environments. You want to manage it as a group. Now, the other important thing, which is which helps in the governance aspects of these environments, is what we call as environment routing, right? So if you click on environment routing, what it allows you to do is any maker that comes to Power Platform for creating apps, flows, agents, including Copilot Studio, basically, you can assign them a personal developer environment for Maker, right? And what it will do is, when I sign in, I will have my own personal environment, so I'm not, I can so I'm not, sharing any of those things. So you can prevent what can be done and what cannot be done, and you are giving them a safe space for every Maker, enterprise. So that is also something that you can do. You can set this up, and when a new environment is created, you can assign it to an environment group here, for instance, right? Or so those are some of the things that you can do here, that you can also use for more advanced management of environments in your enterprise, right? Okay, so that defines, an environment where a maker can go and create, and you can assign roles to it, so it tells you who can do what. The other thing that you also want to look at as an admin would be the data policies, right? So you define who can do and where they can build. Now, the next question would be what kind of things they can build, right? So that is where the data policy comes in. The data policies define what kind of connectors can be used when they are building things on Power Platform, right? Power Platform provides, I think, about 1,400 and more, almost 1,500 out-of-the-box connectors connecting to different data sources. And you may want, what you can do is you can classify each of those data sources and put them in one of three buckets, right? And you will see it right now. The first bucket is whether it's a business, is a data source is used for business purpose. The second one is whether you want to allow it, but it's not for business. And the third one is data sources that you don't want anybody to use, so you can block them, right? So that's how you can classify those policies. Um, so we'll start by creating a small policy here. So let's call it, say, Contoso default, right? Data policy. Okay. And here, as I said, you can, okay, we have our 1,300 connectors. You can see there are a lot of business, non-business, and block. So by default, we put everything here, right? But you can also choose and say which one you want to put it in the default, and any new connectors that show up will automatically go in this default, right? So there are three categories: business, non-business, and block. So let's say you want to allow SharePoint, OneDrive, Dynamics, and you can say, hey, I want to move this to business, right? So now you have this three connectors in business and the rest in non-business. And you can say, hey, I don't want anyone to be using this four connectors, so you can block them, right? So that's how you can classify each of those connectors. Now the thing is, when you have three connectors in business, let's say as a maker you're building an agent, and in that agent you're using SharePoint, then you will not be able to use any of the connectors like Salesforce, OneDrive, which is in a non-business class, with your SharePoint connector. So in an agent, in an app, in a flow, what we will enforce is you cannot mix connectors or data sources that is handling your business data with connectors or data sources that is handling non-business data. So that is one way of preventing or securing your business data and keeping it separate from your non-business data, right? So that is how you can create. So once you classify those connectors, you can do the same thing for custom connector. So Power Platform also allows you to create custom connector here. What you can do is you can add a pattern. So you can say, hey, anything that has a pattern, let's say API dot, come on, start dot API dot contoso.com is handling business data, right? So you can save it, right? And anything which is not there will be ignored. So that is how you can create. You can also have a pattern for custom connector, and depending on the API that the custom connector is pointing to, it will be classified as such. And then finally, you can say this policy that you are creating, where does it apply? As a global admin, as a Power Platform admin, you can create one that applies to all the environment, and that will be enforced basically. But if you are an environment admin, you can also create a policy that is applicable only for that specific environment, right? So you have the option to apply that policy for all environments, or you can select particular environment, right? So you can add multiple environments, or you can say, hey, it applies to all except for certain environments. So that's an exclusion policy that you can create as well. For now, let's just create for all environments, and so it gives you a high level overview of how it is done, and then you can start creating those policies, right? Once it starts creating the policy, those will be applied. All right, so that is the policy part of it. There are a few other things that I wanted to quickly cover as well, right? So the first one is that tenant isolation, which is slightly more advanced, but sometimes as an admin, you may have to manage how data in your tenant, whether you need to allow it to to access resources in other tenants or not, right? So for instance, I've created a tenant ID, and you can say, hey, you want to allow inbound and outbound data and so on. But you have to enable this, then only it applies, okay? So this is sometimes useful when you are managing like two different domains. You're in the same enterprise, but maybe you acquired some company and you have like two different tenants, and you want to make sure that they can work with each other. Otherwise, you don't have to switch on this feature as well. The other thing in the policy is a customer logbox. This is useful when you want to configure when you want to allow Microsoft support to kind of access your data, right? And then the other one that you can see is we also have something called customer managed keys. So we can also protect all your data in Power Platform using a customer key that you can provide. So we'll encrypt all the data at rest, and that will make the data more secure for you, right? So these are some of the policies that you can apply. Now let's look at a few other things, right? So the one thing that as an admin that I would want you guys to check out is the advisor. So the advisor provides bunch of tips. Basically, it will look into your environment, your tenant, and provide you very helpful tips that you can follow. So for instance, one of the recommendation was that you can secure agents by setting up data loss prevention policy for Copilot Studio items. So it came from the advisor because I have not set up any data loss policies here, right? So that is one that you can do, and there will be more things that will come up in future as well. All right, so we look at who can create, where can they create, and what they can do, right? So that once you set this up, now your makers can start creating agents, basically using Copilot Studio. They can start leveraging creating cool agents and so on. One of the other things that you may want to do as an admin once that happens is during the approval of some of those agents. So typically what you will want to do is you will want to make sure that the makers, your users, are empowered to try things on their own. But sometimes you also want to make sure that you have control in terms of what can be broadly shared, right? So, for instance, you might want to say, I don't want anybody to be sharing to more than 50 people in my org, right? Because then I want to come and make sure that anything which is widely shared has is properly reviewed and it has a blessing and so on. So those are some of the things that you can do as an admin, right? So the way to do that would be, for instance, if you go to settings on the Power Platform Admin Center, there are so many settings that we provide. We'll not go through each of those things, right? But the important one that I want to show you was the sharing control. Where is that? All right. Concept, environment assignment, leadership, right? Not this. Okay, not this. This is not this one. All right. So would be the sharing control that you can provide. I thought it should be here, but it's probably not here. Yeah, here you go. Access control and manage sharing, right? So so you can, for this environment, let's say in the default environment, you can say, hey, I want to have this managed sharing. Again, this will turn. So let's pick one environment here. And here I can say for this environment, right? Why is it not coming up? All right, that's it. Okay, so if once you create the group, oh, this is because I've created the group, but these are the settings that you can do, right? You don't have to set limits, which is the default, but you can also set limit for that. So for instance, if I go here and look into the groups, there you go, environment groups, rules, right? And then you can see the sharing control for Canvas apps, sharing control for Cloud Flows, sharing agents. So the agents, you can share it as an editor as well. So you don't want people to share between environments. You can always use that and remove this, right? And you can also limit, as I said, number of people that you can share with. So for instance, you can say, hey, I only share it with individuals, no security group, and you can limit it to, say, 50, right? So once you do this, your agents cannot be shared to more than 30 people, right? So those are some of the things that you can do once you have those things. I've done 30, right? Okay, sounds good, right? And then similarly, you can do it for apps, you can do it for flows, and so on, right? So now if a maker comes and say, hey, but I'm building this, I needed more than 30 people, how do you do that, right? So typically in that case, what happens is, let's say I've built this agent here, right? And once you publish that agent, you're restricting the number of people that you can share it with here, right? So if you look at this agent here, this is not published. I thought I published it. Oh, the other one is the one that you can publish. But okay, so we can publish it here, right? And once this might take time. Okay, so let's just go back to that agent, the other agent that I have already published. So this will be for Copilot Studio. I have an agent here that I've created as a maker, and once it comes up, you'll find that I've already published this, right? And you can see that once I publish, I can share this as a link with other users, or I can submit it to an admin for approval. So this is how, as an you can, as a maker, you can submit it to admin for approval. And once you submit it, basically, it will go and show up in the admin center, right? So let's just move this a little bit. And if you look at here, the Teams app admin center here, let's see. Okay. So you'll see this manage app, you have one pending approval, for instance, and if you sort it by the publishing status as submitted, you will see that, the one that I've isn't. And then as an admin, you can approve it basically, or you can publish it, or you can reject it. Okay, so that's what you can do as an admin. And finally, once everything is running as an admin, what you will typically want to do is you want to come back and see how things are going, right? So that's a much more advanced feature, but we have analytics available that you can see for Dataverse, Power Automate, and Power Apps, and so on. But for Copilot as an agent, we also have auditing enabled, right? So if you go to Microsoft Purview, you will be able to find logs in terms of what is being done from Copilot Studio. So all the admin activity as well as the agent activities, you can do that, and you can enable that. All right, so that gives you an overview of the proactive controls that you can do in terms of who can do what, and and then the approval that comes in between, and then the monitoring and the aspects of audits also there. So that brings us to most of the important topics for our session. The question would be, how do I get help? So I talked about advisors. There's a bunch of documentation, very nice documentations available as well. And you can always create support ticket from the admin center itself in case you run into problems, right? So that's it.